think they're ready for this. You know what time it is? It's about that time of the week to showcase what you got, the talent that we have. It's a whole lot. You can sing, you can dance, you can rap, you can write. It doesn't matter. You know what time it is? Put your hands in the sky and wave them side to side. Every foot alive. It's Talented Thursday with Kimberly Eichelle. Let's go. I don't think they're ready for this. You know what time it is? It's about that time of the week to showcase what you got, the talent that we have. It's a whole lot. You can sing, you can dance, you can rap, you can write. It doesn't matter. You know what time it is? Put your hands in the sky and wave them side to side. Every foot alive. It's Talented Thursday with Kimberly Eichelle. Let's go.
Let's go, let's go, let's go. Hey, hey, everybody. It's your girl, Kimberly Eichelle, and welcome to another episode of Talented Thursdays. I'm so excited tonight. You all have no clue. You are in for someone special tonight. So come on in. You know how I say here, come on in and bring a friend. What have you all been up to? Make sure that you are dropping, your city in the comments and saying hello. I'm so glad that you all are here tonight. I definitely want to welcome all of you who are watching on different platforms, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. You may be listening on Vegas Praise. And guess what, y'all? I am now on Apple and Spotify and Amazon. So I'm super excited about what God is doing with Talented Thursday. So again, come on in. Tonight's guest, let me just tell you, God does some amazing things, right? So sometimes I'm putting a show together and I'm like, okay, God, this is yours. Which way do you want this thing to go? And that's with anyone. You know that I am a Christian, but my platform is open to different artists and everything. And everyone may not feel the way that I feel. I'm here to kind of tell their story. But when it's somebody whose heart matches mine, it just feels like, ooh, we're about to have a good time. So tonight, you all, like I said, are in for a treat. So come in, make sure that you press like, share, subscribe on YouTube, and let's get this thing started because I want to have plenty of time for my guests tonight. So you all ready? Let's go, let's go, let's go. Tonight's guest has been through the highs and lows of life, but she is a survivor who never gave up. She's known as the speaker for Jesus and is the host of the Nobody podcast. Her message is one that I've heard in song time and time again. If the Lord never does anything else for me, he's done enough. Join me tonight, you all, as Margery Slatz gives her testimony on trials and triumph. Keep watching. You're watching Talented Thursdays.
I don't think they're ready for this. You know what time it is? It's about that time of the week to showcase what you got, the talent that we have. It's a whole lot. You can sing, you can dance, you can rap, you can write. It doesn't matter. You know what time it is? Put your hands in the sky and wave them side to side. Every foot alive. It's Talented Thursday with Kimberly Eichelle. Let's go.
Let's go, let's go, let's go, y'all. You know how we do. Get those drums together out there. Y'all ready? Give a drum roll. Let's go. Give it up for my guest tonight, my special guest, Miss Margery Slatz. Hello, Margery.
Hello, Kimberly. Thank you so much for having me. It's so good to be with you.
Absolutely. The pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much for coming in tonight. You look beautiful in your blue, well-lit podcast. Ready?
Yes.
We are going to have a good time tonight for sure. We're going to have a good time. So I want to kind of dive in here on Talented Thursdays. I always tell the guests, and the audience, come on in and rep your city. So, what
Yeah.
city are you repping tonight, Margery?
So I am a proud Cleveland, Ohioan. Yes, I hear the
Let's go.
yes.
Look
And of
at
course,
that.
we have LeBron James. We had him and we won I can't believe it's been 10 years since we actually won the championship, but that was a very
Wow.
high point in our entire city. It was amazing. But also I have to say that the OJs and Levert have a studio here and they were from Cleveland. So all of our music people that they
Yes.
can understand who that is.
I definitely understand who that is. That's some singing. You hear me?
Yep.
That's some soul, right? And then I found out a little secret about you, Margery. Now, not only can you speak, but you got some flows in there. You were going to be a rapper. Is that correct?
I was a rapper. Yes, I was. I was on
Yes.
I did some shows locally and I was on the radio station here. I won a rap contest and yeah, it was back in 1989 and 90. I'm showing my age.
Oh my goodness. Come on with the flows. I love that. Sometimes that's what I love about Talented Thursdays because all types of stories come out. People that know Marjorie may have never known that you were a rapper girl.
Yep.
Yes. So you told me that your rap career started when you heard a song, a certain song. What was
Oh
that?
yes, when I heard a la di da di, oh, we like to party. And then it's funny because some kids at school were listening to me rap and they were like, "Oh, you can rap." So then they hooked me up with other guys and we got into the studio and it was really organic, but it was cool.
Wow. Wow. So doing
Fun
music. So
times.
did you like to write, enjoy writing and things like that?
Oh
Or was
yeah, I still do.
Ooh,
Yeah, I sing, I write, I'm anywhere that the entertainment industry will accept me. I've been in murder mysteries. I've been an extra in a couple of movies that got filmed here in Ohio, and
yes.
yeah, I'm an on person, so it's fun.
It- yes. I was watching Family Feud the other day, my mom and I, watching and Steve Harvey's on there,
Oh
right?
yeah,
And he's
Cleveland boy.
from yeah, right. I'm like, he's Cleveland too.
Yes, yes, he
Yes.
is,
Yes, indeed. So there
and he's
was a
married to a Marjorie. Did you know that?
yes, he is,
Yep, his wife's name
right?
is Marjorie.
Oh my goodness. Look at the connection, right?
Right?
Yes. So I was watching the show, my mom and I, and it was a show of highlights, like a highlight reel. And so all of the families that were coming on had some type of talent, right? So whether it was singing or it was dancing or it was playing an instrument, they all had some type of talent in this reel. But he said, you have it. You have that it. And Marjorie, I think you got that it.
Thank you. Aw.
Yes, yes. Love your personality,
I didn't always have the it, though. I will tell you that, though. But we'll go
You
into
didn't
that more in a little bit. I didn't always have the it. Yeah. I was so
wow.
afraid of doing anything. I actually failed. CCD was Catholics, like Sunday school.
Mhm.
And I would not get up in front of the class in my kindergarten class and say the Lord's Prayer. And I knew it, but I was
Right.
so afraid. And they funked me.
Wow. You
She
like,
won't
"I'll
get
get
up.
up now," right?
No, I get up now, yes, but not then.
Yes.
There was nothing anybody could have done to get me up. I was so shy, and it's like
Oh my
unbelievable when
goodness.
you know me now. It's like, what?
Yeah, I never would have thought that you were shy, a shy girl. Well, look at God. He's pulling all those gifts out of you that he placed on the inside. He needs you for such a time as this.
Amen. Hmm.
Amen. So I want to dive into your story because it is very inspirational. But like I said in your introduction, there were some highs and lows for sure. Today you're smiling, this beautiful smile, and we're looking at you looking like a winner, and there are some hard times, like I said, that you went through. So I want to dive through your story tonight so people who may not know who Marjorie is will know you by the time this episode ends. How about that?
Great.
Awesome, awesome. So tell me about young Marjorie. You just told me about going to Sunday school and being shy and all of those things. You grew up in Cleveland, of course, but what type of kid were you?
Well, Recently, my dad passed away about a year and a half ago. And before he passed away, he had told me, I think you have problems. He didn't say had. I wasn't really happy about that. He goes, because of what I did to your mother when you were in utero. He said her belly. And he didn't apologize, but to me, that was acknowledgement. And that was as good of apology for me.
Right.
He was a difficult man. I loved him. He was my daddy. I mean, like he was a biker, alcoholic, trucker. I mean, he was, a very interesting, very lively person. He was a little bit mean at home. So, but that explains a lot because I was a habitual bedwetter as a child. I was very nervous. I would chew my nails down to the blood. And for him to say that, it actually vindicated me a little bit. It felt like, oh, okay. So I was this nervous child and no one knew why all this was happening. And then maybe he's saying he now, he knew. So that was nice.
Right, absolutely. I'm sure, my condolences, of course, on the passing of your father. But to get just some words, because sometimes people get nothing. So,
Yeah.
like you said, at least he acknowledged it,
Girl,
to
he got Jesus on his deathbed.
wow.
Yes, there was a couple that would come with their daughter and deliver meals. It was somebody I worked with. And, I knew my father wasn't going to find Jesus through me because he was a little bit abrasive. Like we were a little bit like this. And I was a dutiful daughter, but I just knew. So I brought in as many people as I could to lay the foundation. And then on the final day, he couldn't talk anymore, but he was aware. And the woman said, Jimmy, are you going to go to heaven? And he shook his head and we were like,
you say, wait a minute.
Yeah. And she goes, Jimmy, does that mean that you accepted Jesus? And oh my gosh, that was the best gift. Because now I know I'll see him. And, he didn't get to enjoy what it feels like to have God's grace here, but at least he got it. And I'm proud of him.
Absolutely. How beautiful, God answers prayers. And so I'm sure as his daughter, you're like, I don't know when it's going to happen. I don't know how it's going to happen, but God allowed you to see it happen,
Yes, I know. I was a witness and I was like, oh my gosh, it was so perfect. It was really, really cool that happened.
Oh,
but my mom, so my dad was hurting my mom, but my mom mentally lost it. She was diagnosed with, which would be now bipolar and schizophrenic. But back then it was manic depressive and schizophrenia. So when her father passed away, when I was 2, then mom started to go off the rails. And my dad was getting more into the biker lifestyle and not there and doing what he was doing. And I don't blame my mom. Now it makes sense to look back at that and see her pain and why the response was what it was. And I don't know if we had mentioned this, but unfortunately she had nervous breakdowns and she did try to kill herself several times. And I saw it. So it was another layer of that anxiety. And like I said, you couldn't put me in front of anyone. And I'm talking till double digits. There was no way I was standing in front of anyone. There was no way I was going to talk in front of a group. I was so introverted and so scared and so anxiety ridden. So I share that to say, if you're going through that, it doesn't have to hold you captive. Absolutely. And I don't call anxiety my anxiety because it's not mine. So, but so I feel like that's a big encouragement that if God can change me to my core, he can change anybody. And if he can get my dad saved before now.
Okay, you say yes, indeed. I'm like you, the Bible tells us that life and death is in the power of our tongues, right? And
yes.
I don't call anything mine either. If you get a diagnosis, it's not my this or my that. No, God, I need you to heal me from this. I need this to be taken off of me, but it doesn't belong to me. I am not claiming that. Now, what I will claim is my money, my future in God.
Yes.
The two things, but I will not claim anything that the enemy tries to put up on us. And he tells us to fear not, for he is with us. And so anxiety cannot be in the same place as faith. So we need that to move on out of the way and know that God has us. He has everything in control.
Yes. And later on in my journey, when I realized that questioning or worrying is actually questioning God, it kind of is very selfish. It's kind of a diss to God. And it's like, that's,
Right.
but if you don't realize it, you don't know. And then the enemy wants to
Absolutely.
keep us in chaos. So there is nothing like, but peace that comes from God, peace, love, and joy. And the enemy is chaos and fighting and disruption. So
Right.
it's good to be able to identify that and understand that.
Absolutely. We have Gladys Reyes in the room, and I put her comment up, but she's saying hi from Cleveland. Hello,
Hi,
Gladys.
Gladys. That's my
Thank you for
girl.
coming
She
in.
knew me when I was a
Awesome.
rapper.
Uh-oh, you and Gladys go way back then.
Yes.
She can
Yes.
testify. I love
Yes.
that.
She's a very
Awesome.
special woman. She's a full-time caretaker for her son who has cerebral palsy. So she's a very
Oh,
devoted Christian and she loves Jesus and she's just a wonderful person.
beautiful. Shout out to you, Gladys. Again, thank you for watching and being here to support Margery. Oh, she said you are very talented. All right, there she is. There's the testimony. There's the witness, right?
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And you know what, Gladys? I only learned that just a few minutes ago. So I'm so glad that I did. I was like, we're talking about that rap career, okay? Because guess what, Margery? I used to rap too, okay? And I have
Oh
a song that'll be dropping hopefully this year. And I went ahead and threw a rap on there. How about that?
boy. That's amazing. I can't wait to hear it. So we could actually develop a band. We could be the new Salt and Peppa.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, we
I'm
got this,
down.
girl.
Let's do it.
Mm.
That is too funny. I love it. Love it. So tell me, what did you dream of? You know, you went through a lot of stuff as a kid, but what did you dream of becoming? You know, did you have big dreams at that time?
You know, when I was a little girl, I was the middle child of 5 children, and I was the only redhead in my family. And when I was growing up, red hair was not what it is today. People really love red hair, and they
Oh, yes.
actually, they don't make fun of children, but they used to make fun of me, and it was just another thing. But I wanted to be little orphan Annie. I wanted to be an actress, and I would sing "They'll Be Calling Me Baby," and I'd be in the basement. I wanted to audition, but I was so afraid I would have never gotten on the stage. But I
Right.
did. I always had that. I think that was always in me because God created me that way. But because of all
Yeah.
of the trauma, I just didn't. It didn't happen then, and I'm kind of glad it didn't. When I look at these stars, if I would have became a rapper, I might
Right.
not even be sitting here right now.
Exactly. I
So I'm
totally
thankful.
agree. Yeah, I totally agree. You know, there were some places that I wanted God to take me and that I dreamed of, you know, as a young person. And like you said, when we look at some of the stars and things from our childhood, a lot of them are messed up. You
Yeah,
know, if
like I
they're
think of Mary
still
J.
here,
Blige. She went through so much.
so much.
And I was like, that was my era. That was the time, the early 90s. And I just like that. I could see myself in that. And that would just be awful. I mean,
Yes,
I'm so thankful. I mean, I never thought I would say that. Thankful that God didn't give me that. Thank God he
exactly.
doesn't always give us what we want or what we
That's
dream of.
right. But he gives us what we need. How about that?
Yes. Amen.
Yes, indeed. I'm listening to your timeline. I'm like, we got to be around the same age. Okay. I'm listening
Okay.
to you. But listen, I don't want to skip over those vocals either because I just heard you hit just a few notes.
Yeah, I
You
love to
got a pretty
sing.
voice in there.
Thank
Yes,
you.
indeed. Gladys
Actually, all
said,
my sisters can sing, and my grandmother, which I didn't know this because she passed away when my mom was 7, so
"Mm,
that's why my mom also had difficulty parenting. But she was a trained opera singer, so I have the
oh,
Mariah Carey highs.
wow.
I can hit the
Get out. Get out with the
yeah,
whistle notes.
yes,
Oh my goodness. Let me tell you, you got me smiling tonight. I love talent, girl. I'm like, okay,
so
Margery, we got to talk after the show too.
yes,
Okay.
for sure, for sure. We're old friends now.
Beautiful.
It's
We
over.
are. We
It's
are. It's a wrap. The
it's a
new
wrap.
Salt and Pepper coming soon.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh my
So funny.
goodness.
But
That is
so
hilarious.
being the middle child, going back to that long old story, and then all the shifting, and then my father's brother and my aunt Ethel and Uncle Rick, they were my godparents, and she was the one
Mm,
who helped me no longer wet the bed. I mean, I was approaching double digits. I was going to sleep at her house, and she put me on this white couch, and I looked at it, I said, I can't sleep there. And she says, it's okay. The bathroom's right there. And if you have an accident, it's cleanable.
Yes.
But on the polarizing end of that, my dad had me sleeping on a box spring in the summertime. I mean, I could have had a mattress. I don't understand the box spring part, but, and then I would threaten that if I, wet the bed that night, that they would take back everything that they bought for me. So I would get up in the middle of the night with a wet bed and take a paper plate and try to fan it dry, just to no avail. And they would wake up and touch it. And of course it was half dry. So it was, I mean, that doesn't sound as traumatic as so many other people have so many difficult like childhoods. I mean, we were on welfare. My mother was mentally ill. My dad, I mean, the violence and that. So but I look back and I say, it could have been worse. You know what I mean? I don't feel like a victim in it. I just, you know, I realize that other people have it much, much more difficult. So,
and what a way to look at things, you know, because through it all, it was still a challenge. Sometimes I say, you know, whether someone gets cut with a knife or a paper cut, it still hurts. You get what I'm saying?
That's good.
At that period, it still hurts. And so, you know, for you to be able to say, I went through all of that, but I still can say that I didn't have it as bad as this person. That's a blessing. That's only God can give you something like that, because you have been through some things, you know? Wow. I have my mother who has tapped into the room, Evangelist Herdy Randolph. She said, God orders our steps. He knows what is best for us. Absolutely. Amen. Absolutely. So, let's see. There's so many ways that I can go.
So I think that my first stage type thing is when I finally got to high school with my sister. I tried out for the cheerleading team and I became a cheerleader. Now, with great disappointment, every time we would have an event, I would fall. So I was like a laughing stock. But anyway, I was still chewing my fingers though. And like, I remember this one guy, Cedric Higgins, he came up and he took my hands around. He goes, look at what she's doing. She's so nervous. Look at what she's doing. No. So I was so still, even in high school, it was just this bundle of nerves. And it was, you know, crazy.
But you did it at the same time, you know, to become a cheerleader. You had to try out, first of all, you know? So
I got lucky. My sister was on the team and they gave me like a private tryout. So I don't know if I would have made it if I would have tried out normal.
VIP.
Yes. Well, it was a Cleveland public school, and Cleveland public schools are definitely not the best schools in the United States. Let's just put it that way. So, and then there was 3 black girls, and then my sister was the only white girl. Nobody even tried out. So then they were like, well, we could use a 5th cheerleader. So it's kind of like I just came at the right time, and then God put it together, because he knew he needed to start putting me out in front of people and to learn to be less afraid and to be more brave.
Yes. Yeah. And he said that our gifts would make room for us. So look at all that was on the inside of you. And like you said, he had to pull you from behind that curtain, out of that shy place, because your voice, I'm sure even then, and your personality was necessary.
Yeah.
Even today. But we're going to talk more. We're going to talk more. So let me see. You eventually became a police officer in Cleveland, right?
Yes, I did.
You worked your way up to detective and sergeant. When did you decide to go into law enforcement? And what was that journey like?
It was like a happy accident. I actually was working 3 jobs, and on one of my jobs, there was part-time police officers there, and they said, you work so much and you don't even have any benefits. And they said, go apply for a dispatch position. So I started in as dispatch and learned a lot there. And then I just took the test. I really didn't study. It was kind of like a whim, but that's what God needed me to do. I know it because it came so easily. And then I went through the academy, and I was assigned to the 4th district, which is like our Lower East Side. Our neighborhoods there are very downtrodden, abandoned homes, mostly African-American populated. And I saw a lot. I saw a lot of murders, a lot of abuse, a lot of children. The saddest part, I think, that stays with me is looking in the eyes of children who aren't even fazed, and the world around them is completely chaotic.
Wow.
So it's like, when somebody has experienced so much trauma that it just doesn't even bother them anymore. And that's just horrible. So thankfully that time they did a pilot program where if we had especially domestic violence, a child or a family of children, we could get them counseling and they would go to art therapy.
Mm.
So it was really nice to see that there was some resources being given to the kids that are lost. No, like, just like me, I was lost in the sauce. Nobody could see me. And it was like that was a good part of that job. And then after a couple of years on patrol, I actually applied for the sex crimes unit and I got it. And I loved doing that. I really enjoyed being a sex crimes detective. I loved helping people. And it was just like, I'm a turn over every rock type gal. So it fit me.
Wow, that is awesome. And it's such a heavily male dominated field, And so what was that like for you, to go from dispatch, from taking calls to now you are the one that they are calling saying, hey, Margery, we need you out here, So what did that feel like? And what was it like, like I said, being a woman in a heavily male dominated field?
Well, it was weird, and I'm not going to say it wasn't sexist. And I worked with a guy, Marcus, and he said, "Hey, Margery," he was black, and he goes, "I feel sorry for you because they're not allowed to say out loud what they think of me if they're racist, but they can say it to you because it wasn't really the same as like." Being sexist, that was still okay. So there was a lot of people that would just outright say, I won't work with you because you're a girl. And I was like, well, I'm glad that you're telling me that because I wouldn't want to work with you.
Right.
But then, you just go out. And I think the thing I learned early on was there's two things, is that women de-escalate a situation. We go in and automatically someone double takes us and they're not willing to go to fight. They have, but generally just our voices even de-escalate the situation. But then I also realized I don't have to prove myself to these other people that I work with, just my partner, because every scene I go to, I'm going to have to, they're sizing you up. So to, I guess maybe stay in that headspace of, I was a woman and I'm never going to be good enough, or they doubt me. I put that to bed quick because everywhere you go, they're going to doubt you. And I was confident with my shooting skills and my driving skills and my talking skills. And I had that previous dispatch. So I even knew how to talk to people. My, one of my FTOs, John Prince, he was having me handle the assignments right away. And I was like, I don't know what to say to him. He goes, sure you do. And he like pushed his little birdie out of the nest really quick. And it was good. I honestly, truly feel like, because I was a really good shot, I was a really good driver. I was talkative. Not everybody likes talkative partners, but I was able to de-escalate. I just feel like God made me for those things, like all those things that I went through, even the traumas. I don't think I would have realized what a child experiencing trauma was going through. It wouldn't have clicked for me. And I just think that I went through all those things because he needed me to be activated in that position.
Absolutely. It goes back to what my mom was saying in the comments about God ordering our steps.
Yes.
And you are absolutely right, because you talked about the trauma that you went through. And so now you can identify what that looks like in a child and even what that feels like, for a child. Then you went into dispatch. So now you know how to talk to someone on a scene. And like you said, de-escalate it, because being in dispatch, I'm sure you took so many calls that you had to calm people down in, or let them know, hey, it's going to be okay, know. And so to work yourself up, through those ranks and things, that was definitely ordained for you, you know, and what a beautiful thing to have someone such as yourself on a police force, someone who has a heart, someone who knows what people need, what it's like to have and what it's like to not have. And people don't always understand that because they come from all different walks of life, and so they don't have a feel for everyone, but you are someone who can have a feel for everyone. So how beautiful is that? So you worked as a detective in the field that you said, and then also
sex crimes and child abuse. Wow, that was
goodness.
on
That's
overdrive. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you have to be a pretty tough cookie because you then worked your way up to sergeant. So
Yes, I
tell me how
did.
that came about.
Well, I went back. So our mayor, laid off about 300 officers. So I was actually taken
Wow.
out of we couldn't afford to lose that many officers, but we did.
Right.
And then, so they booted me back out to the streets because I was like the last promoted person into the, detective position. So I went back out to patrol and I took the sergeant's test and I was waiting for my number to be called. And then unfortunately I got injured in the line of duty.
Mm.
So while I was
Wow.
waiting, I was injured in the line of duty. I still got promoted, which that's a gift from God.
Yes.
And I appreciate that and I respect that. And I earned it. So it is what it is. But
Yeah.
I didn't really earn it. He just made it all happen. You know what I mean? Like, I can't even say that. Like, even when I talk about my injury and the things that happened, I don't even get bitter or angry because it was all his plan. He's in control. He's in sovereign control of all of us and everything. And if
Yes.
we continue to hit our heads up against the wall and kind of fight that, we don't understand it and we can't accept our circumstances the way that he wants us to.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So you talked about being injured. Take me back to that day. Take us back, our listeners and myself as well, and tell us what it looked like. What happened that day?
Well, that day was, I was getting ready to go in for patrol. It was in February. It was snowing. There was a lot of snow around, built up. So it wasn't just coming down. And then I saw a car. We had just gotten a roundabout and we hadn't had those in Cleveland. So people did not
Hmm.
know how to use them. And I saw
Right.
this guy like almost hit two cars. So I pulled him over and I wasn't a big, traffic cop. Like I didn't like to pull people over because I have a little bit of a lead foot.
Okay.
So I
You
don't want
like,
to be a
I kind of
hypocrite.
know what it feels
Right.
like,
I don't want
right?
to be a hypocrite and write tickets for something that I do. That's just
Yes.
okay. So, but as I was going to just warn them, I wasn't even going to do anything. They took off. So it was a car chase and then it turned into
Oh
a
my
foot
God.
chase. And then I chased the guy behind into the backyard and I rolled my ankle and I still kept going. I caught him, handcuffed him. And then when I handcuffed him, he tried to run again. So, the most important part of that is we were on a hill and I had to sprint downhill. And
Oh my
I don't know if you
goodness.
realize this, but we carry at least 30 to 40 extra pounds of gear on us. So running
Wow.
downhill, you're never supposed to run downhill. I learned this afterwards that your meniscus, it will tear and mine both tore. So I tore up my knees, kept going, rolled my ankle, kept going. And then my backup got there with me. I cuffed the guy and then he tried to run and I grabbed him and then he fell on top of me and I felt my back go.
Oh my goodness.
The moment I went down and it was bad. This guy was, he was just released from prison 3 months before I found him. And he had already collected 4 aggravated drug trafficking warrants. And he left the drugs in the front seat of the car. So I'm inclined to believe that he probably had a gun and he ditched it.
Right.
In the chase and we weren't able to find it, and I'm grateful that he didn't and that he did ditch
Absolutely.
it because this could have ended different. And then I booked the guy and my partners that were my backup, they looked at me and they go, "Oh yeah, you're white as a ghost." I go, "Yeah, I'm in real pain." So I drove myself to the emergency room and
Mm.
that's when we found out, well, obviously they don't tell you at the emergency room, but I tore both of my meniscus and my right and left knee. My back was seriously herniated. And the 2 lower, it's the L4, L5, L5, S1. So it's at the bottom.
Mhm.
And I had 6 knee surgeries and I had a knee replacement eventually, but we'll get there. And then I had back surgery, major back surgery, and they had to go through the front and cut my
Wow.
abdomen, take all my intestines out, and then spread apart my vertebrae, scrape everything out, and then pounded plates into my vertebrae. So I have 4
Ooh.
plates in my spine.
Oh
So
my
fast
goodness.
forward to 2022 when I get my knee replaced and it's hot and it won't stop. It's got a rash. It's red. It's hot. It's very painful. And the doctors were
Mm.
like, "We don't know what's wrong with you." They kept testing my blood to see if I had an infection and I didn't. I knew I didn't because you could tell. But
Right.
so that's when God, whew, he sent me my one doctor looked at me and he was going to give me a prescription. And I said, "Oh, does it have any metal in it? Because I had to have my wedding ring cut off." And he looks at me and goes, "What?" He goes, "Could you be allergic to metal?" I go, "Well, yeah, I had trouble wearing earrings growing up and I had my ring." So they tested me for metal allergies. And sure enough, I am allergic to the titanium plates in my spine that can never be removed.
Oh my goodness.
So
Oh my
in
goodness.
2023, when I found out, and then they had to put me through I had to go to all kinds of different doctors, like arthritic doctor, and just to make sure that we caught what is actually wrong. So that's going to round us out to about last February. And I went back to the allergist and he goes, "Okay, I'm so sorry, Margery. We don't really know what to do for you. I'm gonna give you this prescription, but we don't think it's gonna work. But we're at a loss." And I'm
We
like,
are at a loss. Oh my goodness.
so
Wow.
he gives me the prescription and I walk out and strangely, I felt vindicated. I felt like all these years that I've been in so much pain in my back and I can't get comfortable and I can't go on road trips and I was like, oh my gosh, I had a doctor once tell me you don't want to heal. And as messed up as my mind was now, if you can imagine, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. I started to have an extreme reaction to the post-traumatic stress things that I saw and observed on the job. A week after I got injured, a policeman, academy classmate, and officer that I adore, Derek Owens, was murdered in the line of duty. He got shot.
Oh my goodness.
So it started with the survival guilt. I was like, why not me? He's had 2 little kids. I don't have any children. What, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it just evolved. And then I started actually his partner was calling me and telling me his partner came out with us too. And he was my partner at one time. And so he was telling me what he saw, what he smelled, what he heard. And I was living it without even being there. And then our minds are so powerful. Then I started to just have a lot of flashbacks. I think that was the critical incident that kind of broke. I think officers literally are one critical incident away from having a full out PTSD. And then once the gates open, it all comes out. Yeah. And then you can't control it. The nightmares
these are the things that people don't hear about. You know, we hear about the bad cop, you know, and you hear about the good cop, you know, but you really hear a lot about the bad cops. But you don't hear the stories behind what goes on, you know, in the day-to-day life. So, you know, I have family members that work in law enforcement as well, you know.
Thank you for their service.
Yes. And thank you so much, you know. But like you said, you know, there are things that you all go through that truly could cause PTSD, you know. Now, there are some bad cops, but I don't think every cop is bad. You know, I believe that everyone at the end of the night. Now, the closest that I got to law enforcement is all the seasons of The Rookie that I've watched. Okay. I love The Rookie, but there are episodes on there where I have literally cried.
Yeah.
It's a show, you know, and I've cried. So for you, I can only imagine for your coworker, you know, another officer to go down. One of my best friends works in dispatch, you know, and she tells me, you know, Kim, it was a really hard day.
Yeah.
Or we lost an officer.
Yeah.
Or we're trying, you know, it took me all day to try to get this officer out of an area that he was trapped in. You know, there are so many things that go on. So thank you for understanding your community, first of all, because you were in a community that didn't look like you, you know, but that you cared about. And so I want to say that I appreciate that, you know, and I'm sure that there were others who appreciate that. But then you were hurt in the line of duty. And then not only that, you know, going through so much in trying to heal. And sometimes that's what we hear from a doctor, especially women. Women have it hard sometimes. Well, you don't want to heal. Well, really?
Yeah.
Who wants to be in excruciating pain every day, all
right.
day?
or it's they were doubting me, or maybe, and then I even went down the road that said, well, maybe I don't, maybe my own mind, how messed up I am. I'm stopping myself. So I felt vindicated when they found out, but I will tell you, it was extremely difficult to admit. Everybody knew I got hurt, which was okay. I could not, as a woman, admit. I couldn't admit that I was struggling. So one time I was at the police union hall, and this guy comes up to me and gives me a hug, and he was really buff and built, a policeman. And he comes up to me and he goes, so have you gotten depressed yet? And I was like, but that gave me permission to know that if this guy could say that and did that, and he's speaking from his experience, then it's okay for me to admit it. But I had that trifle, like I wasn't admitting anything because I was afraid of what it would make me look like, because all the time I was thinking I'm going back.
Right.
Even after my back surgery, I was going back. I mean, when I left and gave my badge up, I was crying on the way out the door, and my friends were there and they were just like, wow. And I was just like, and anybody who really knew me, they would said, yeah, no, I wouldn't have wanted to go out on injury, but there were a lot of policemen that were, I don't want to say jealous, but they were not, they just like, oh, well, she got off. Now I have to still do my time. You know what I mean? Jealousy or, but I would trade my injuries. I tell everybody, you only get one body. Please, please, please do not tear it up, because once you tear it up, it's difficult.
Absolutely. For those of you who are listening in, or if you're just joining us, I am here tonight with Margery Slatz. She is a survivor. She is a speaker. She is the host of the Nobody podcast. But really, if you all heard the promo, she is somebody to know. And, I am enjoying our conversation. Every week, I am able to bring so many guests in week after week. And so we're here live to have conversations, and people can talk back in the comments. I see Ray, the Flow Master. He's an artist out of California who is here tonight. And he said, I have an interesting person on the broadcast tonight. Absolutely. Very interesting.
Thanks, Ray.
Yes. From music, enforcement, speaker, rapper. She does it all, and so I just think it's a beautiful thing, and I'm so glad to be having this conversation with you tonight. I'm going to pull up Gladys's comment. She said, wow, thank you for your service, Margery. Sorry you went through that. Things happen for a reason. The way things are now, it is a blessing that you are no longer a cop. Things are bad out here times 10. Things are bad out here times 10. Yes.
I think in a way, God knew I wouldn't, because of my heart in the job. I don't think I know he would have known that it would have been difficult for me. We were used to getting spit at, eggs thrown on us. If we left our doors open in the hood, they would dump our papers all over, that we were used to that, like hazing type thing.
Right.
But for the entire United States and people that were just like normal people to like start hating the police, I don't think I could have survived in that culture, because I would have been too passionate, because I felt like that was the perfect calling for me. But going back to the allergies, so I took that prescription and I walked out and I literally sat in my car, and I didn't start my car, and I sat there and I looked at this paper and I said, God, I could really use that miracle right now. I really could. Please allow this to work. I need to be healed. I need to feel some relief. And I said, but if you say no, it's okay. Okay. And I feel like out of all of these 18 years, now it's 18 years as of this February. So that was 17 years. I feel like I never truly surrendered. I wanted to be healed. I prayed and I thought I was doing the right things, but I never truly surrendered.
Right.
And I had faith and hope, but you have to be, that's my story, is that I was able to finally truly surrender to him and accept that Jesus is already my miracle. He already gave me the biggest miracle and the only miracle that I need. So if I'm never healed in this life, that's okay. But about 5 to 7 days later, I had no pain.
Wow.
That medicine worked.
Isn't that something?
Yeah. So they put me on anti-rejection medication, and it works on your kidney really, like you could blow out your kidney. So they don't want me on it long. And they said after 6 months, they're going to, and I got to come off of it if I have an operation or if I get an infection or anything. So you can't stay on it. It basically
Okay.
turns down your immune system so that
Mm.
so my immune system wants to beat those little metal pieces up inside of me.
Yep. It's like,
And
what's this?
yeah.
Yeah.
So they turned it down, and I went off of it at 6 months, December 1st, and the pain is back. So I didn't
Mm.
get the healing, but like I said, it's okay. And the testimony that God gave me, this is what really impacts me. There's two women of the Bible. One was bleeding for 12 years, hemorrhaging, and the other one was possessed by a demon, and she was bent over for 18 years. Don't
Mhm.
lose the significance there.
Right.
18 years old, she was bent over, and Jesus called out to her and healed her. The woman that was bleeding for 12 years, she grabbed the hem of his garment, and
Yes.
she was healed because she knew and had faith that he would do that. So when I speak to people, I bring that up because I feel like I got to touch the hem of his garment
Yes.
last year. You know what I mean? And then now it doesn't matter if I don't get, so I don't know if you watch The Chosen, but I do.
Uh-huh.
And this last season, I think it was season 5, and they were in the upper room. Moral of the story is that my friend Charlotte pointed this out, and then it just became part of my story is that they were going around the table and saying, if you wouldn't have healed me, Lord, it would have been enough. Just what you're about to do, that would have been
Mhm.
enough. It's enough. So I carry around a little, I meant to grab one. I carry around a little piece of cloth, and it actually kind of looks um, the garment Jesus would have been wearing. It's like
Okay.
faded, and I cut it, and it says it is enough, and I have it written on there, and I just carry it, and I have to kind of protect it because it's shriveling. It's the paper, the threads are all coming apart, but it
Wow.
was enough that he did that. His sacrifice was so impactful. It was so worth it. He just saved me. He redeemed me, and I don't. How dare me ask for anything? But if I don't get it, it's okay. And now I'm just going to go out and be on fire for Jesus and talk about it and share with anyone, anywhere that's willing to invite me in. I
Yes.
just, I feel like he woke me up. I was saved in 1999, and then I was a baby
Mhm.
Christian for a long time. So, and I was working full time as a police officer. So I was really busy. I couldn't even like go to church. I wanted to be in the choir, but I couldn't
Right.
even I couldn't go to rehearsal. I couldn't do the Bible studies. They didn't have them during the day. So I was using that as an excuse to really not dig in. But then
Mhm.
Jesus took that career away from me. Guess what? That was an idol in front of him. That was an
Wow.
idol blocking me from him. And then
Yeah.
when he took that away, and then I got connected to a church, my friend Trish invited me to her church, and I knew the first day I went there that was my church home. And then I just grew. I got baptized, and I saw it just, the Holy Spirit was just working and working. And I don't know everything, and I never will, but I now understand in such
Mhm.
a beautiful way. And I'm so thankful.
Absolutely. So thankful. Gladys said, God is good. Praise be to Jesus. Things worked out for you, and you finally found our precious Lord. What a true blessing
Yes.
it is. Yes, indeed. And then my mom, Evangelist Herdy Randolph, who is going through her own test and trial, but she has faith, so much faith. And she said, people can't understand pain like the
No.
person going through it. Thank God for Jesus. Thank
Yes.
God for Jesus for sure. I love that you were able to say, I touched the hem of his garment. You know, there
Yes.
was a song, I love music. So songs always come to mind when I hear
Yeah.
words. But there was a song that said, for it is Jesus. Yes, it is Jesus in my soul. For I
Yeah.
have touched the hem of his
Love this
garment,
garment.
and his love has made me whole. You
Wow.
know, his
That is
love has
exactly
made
it.
me whole.
Yes.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I tell you, this is a beautiful journey.
Yes.
It has been. And the thing is, it's not over for you, Marjorie. It's really just beginning. It's really just
I feel like I
beginning,
got
you
to the
know?
good part finally, you know,
Yes.
and I just don't want to waste it. So I almost feel urgent about speaking for Jesus. And I say
Mhm.
speaking for Jesus because I want to speak about Jesus and only Jesus. I might tell some police stories on my police channel, but
Right.
I'm thinking about doing that. But I want to speak for Jesus. But when I go to a restaurant and I talk to a server and I give them a Bible emergency list, and I just am not ashamed. I ask them, "Are you a Christian?" And then if they say no, and a lot of times they do, I say,
Mhm.
"This week, I want you to look around, and he's trying to reach out to you. He's whispering to you."
Mm.
And I said, I want you to look for him this week." And I would put money on it that every single person was like, "Well, was that a coincidence or was that God?" You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But if you drive, you got to steer your thoughts there, your thoughts. And that's going back to the PTSD and the depression that I was in. And I'm still overcoming is
Yeah.
you can either choose to wallow in the pain. And I'm sad to say it. I never thought I would because of what my mother went through, but I actually had a plan and I was going to end my life.
Mm.
I was in that dark of a place. I was Christian. I accepted Jesus, but my problem was I accepted Jesus, but I didn't take anything out of my life. I still
Mhm.
had the secular music. I didn't ever drink excessively, but would still have alcohol, like everything. It was just,
Right.
I didn't make room for Jesus in my life. I just said, "Oh, I get it now. I see he died on the cross." But
Yes.
now it's so different, and it's just so beautiful. And I don't want anyone to miss that opportunity to accept Jesus
Absolutely.
and to know him, and to just be privileged enough to talk to him.
Mhm. You know, I was looking at your website and a scripture is on there, Isaiah 6 and 8, which says, "And I heard the voice of the Lord saying, Whom shall I send?
Isn't.
And who will go for us? Then I said, Here I am. Send me." Send
Yes.
me. And so
Yes.
you are known as the speaker for Jesus. And the flow master Ray here, he said, I'm trying to bring up his comment. She's loquacious and energetic. Absolutely. And I'm loving
Loquacious. I
every
love
bit of
it.
it. Okay. So talkative and energetic. And I think it's beautiful because that is what you are called to do. There are so many who are afraid.
Yeah.
They're that little girl that you once were.
Yes.
They're
And it's
hiding.
so funny. I do not have any fear. I'm not afraid. I was excited to come on with you. I'm not scared. You know
Yes.
what I mean? So I almost feel like like I said before, an urgency to do this. I want to get out
Mhm.
and I want to share him and I want to um, win souls for Jesus, and then have people be able to grow and see their life change.
Yeah, absolutely. And their lives will change. Their lives will change. So tell us, we have a few minutes left. I want you to tell everyone where they can find you, but also tell me about the Nobody podcast. How did you come up with that name? And tell us what we can hear there.
So about 3 years ago, maybe four years ago this fall, God
Hmm.
was asking me to speak. And I just kept saying, "No, God, that's my flesh. I'm not going to get in front of people. I don't want to be on stage. I don't want to be the Margery show."
Right.
And then so I kept thwarting it. I had a few people praying for me. And then my husband decided that we were leaving our church. And in 2 weeks later, I'm at a speaking conference. It was,
Wow.
and I knew what God was doing. He needed to move me because I would have never moved into where he needs me to go.
Absolutely.
And I didn't really feel comfortable like speaking to my pastor about it. So I was fearful. I was like, I don't know if this is going to be embraced. I don't
Mhm.
know. So then in the fall, I didn't agree with everything that Charlie Kirk said, but I did love that he was a Christian and that he was willing to talk about Jesus every day, everywhere. And in
Right.
colleges, especially because college kids sometimes get pulled away from Jesus. They have that freedom
Mhm.
for the first time, and then the world looks so tempting and satisfying. So then I said, okay, I have to get in gear. I have to do this. So that was when I
Yeah.
recorded my first podcast show. And ironically enough, that scripture, I had already had it on my website in July, and they pinned pin that to him, basically, like, I'm here, I'll go.
Wow.
And so then I started recording, and then unfortunately I lost a really good friend of mine. So the enemy was trying to thwart it at all costs. So this January I said, okay, that's it. I have no excuse. I've got to do this. Get out of this depression, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. God is telling you to do this. Listen, quit like disobeying him. And then I just started, and I have wonderful people giving me ideas. I learned a lot from the speakers conference that I'm going to again this year. And I'm available. I want to speak about Jesus anywhere anyone will let me.
All right. Well, I'm so glad you came to Talented Thursdays to talk about him tonight,
Yes.
Yes, it's been such a blessing having you here. Where can they find you online? Please give your email address as well. So if, someone is looking for a speaker and want to tune into the Nobody podcast, they can do just that.
Okay, so I'm on my my actual website is margeryslatz.com, but my name is spelled funny. It's Margery, and then Slatz is Slatz. So I got to be fly. I got to be extra crunchy. Okay. I think they call it.
Yes.
So my website will take you everywhere else. My podcast, and I hate calling it mine. And that's how I got the name of the Nobody podcast is at the end of my first one. I was like, none of this is about me. I don't want to promote myself. So maybe I'll call it the Nobody podcast. And then the more I started thinking about it and there are 2 or 3 other things out there, and I don't think anyone's actively, so I'm not the Nobody podcast, but I am one of them. And it just feels right. I don't want to go on stage and say how great I am, how great Margery is. Remember my name, because this is the only name that will be remembered. This is the only name that belongs in diamonds on my neck is Jesus.
Okay. Yes, indeed.
Not my name, his name. So I don't want any accolades. I just give me the opportunity to share, and maybe I'll reach someone. And if it's just one person, I'm okay.
Absolutely. I was sharing with you when I saw the name of your podcast, the Nobody Podcast, it brought to mind the song of the Williams Brothers. I'm just a nobody trying to tell everybody about somebody who can save anybody. Save anybody, And so I believe, that you are on a journey, that you are doing what you're called to do. And when you say, Lord, here am I, send me, I'll go, you're going to go.
Okay.
You're going to go, and
have car will travel. I will.
Okay. I know that's right.
And I can get on a plane. So, if you want me to come, I'm coming.
Absolutely. Yes, indeed. God is good, and he's faithful. I thank you for being here tonight, for coming on in and being able to share your story. It takes courage, it takes courage. It takes heart to do what you're doing, because you have to care about others. That's what we're here for. A lot of times, we think we're here to conquer the world and, to get all these riches and fame and all of these things. But as we said at the beginning of the show, thank God that he didn't give us some of the things that we desire, you know? And I look at the world today, and I had a thought the other day, and my thought was, no matter how rich you are, no matter how famous you are, when it's time to go, we are all going in the ground the same way.
Yeah.
And you better have your heart together.
Yep.
You better know who Jesus is, because what matters is what's eternal.
Yes.
This is all temporal. It's temporary. One day our names will be called. And when it's called, we better have these houses, these temples in order.
That's right.
It's not just about going into the building, because everybody may not go into the building, but you better have Jesus on the inside of you.
Yes. And I feel sad sometimes for people who are famous and have a lot of money because they don't really need anything. They don't want for things like I was so desperate and found him in a desperate place. And I feel sorry, but I just want to share him. And I thank you so much for having me here.
Yes.
It's been wonderful. And you are one of my kindred spirit soul sisters. And we'll have to salt and pepper.
That's right. That's right. The new salt and pepper.
There you go.
Awesome. Thank you, Margery, for coming on tonight. Any final words? When you go, what is the message that you want to deliver to the world? What is your key message?
That Jesus is enough, that he already did it. So when you're waiting for your miracle, let that be your miracle. You might not get it till you're on the other side. I might not get healed till I'm in heaven, and that's okay.
Yes.
It was enough.
It was enough. I love it. Thank you all for tuning in tonight to another episode of Talented Thursdays with my girl, Margery Slatz. That's her new name.
Salt of the earth. Yep, that's right. You know
Salt
it.
of the earth. Okay. I love it. It has been a pleasure having you all here tonight. Yes. And having you here, Margery, such a blessing. Next week, you all, I want to say that comedian Damon Williams will be here. He has been in the industry and the business for 30 plus years, all over television, out of the Chicago area, and you all don't want to miss him. He's hilarious and he has a great heart. And y'all better show up. You hear me? They better show up, Margery.
Yes, come back.
Well. That's right. Come back to Talented Thursday, 7 p.m. Pacific. We'll see you then. All right. Thank you all. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Margery.
Thank you for watching. Please support by subscribing to Talented Television on YouTube.